Welcome back to Xbox Corner, my name is Alex and today I'm excited to bring to you a review of Nobody Saves the World on the Series X, S and the Xbox One. An action RPG, it's trying something a little different and I wouldn't expect anything less from the team behind the fantastic Guacamelee, so hit subscribe. Join us here on Xbox Corner for reviews, deals, graphical comparisons and Game Pass breakdowns weekly, and let's get started. The story and opening the game, you will be met with a pale individual known as Nobody, who just happens to be naked as well. You lack any memories but quickly stumble across a wand. An evil is taking over this land and only one wizard can potentially save the day. The problem? They're missing and you're out to assist on the situation with this wand that you probably shouldn't be in possession of. Quickly you learn though this allows you to change into a variety of different forms, and there the adventure begins. Along the way though, don't only expect this main quest line, but tons of side quests, guilds to meet, locals to help, and yeah, overall I really enjoyed the writing in this one. It packs a ton of character, humour, and it moves pretty swiftly for a title in the action RPG realm. So gameplay on this, it's a top-down action RPG that's all about chasing after that main quest line while facing side quests when roadblocks appear. This is basically the result of simply needing to level up over anything else. Now the main concept of the game though, collect stars. These stars allow you to unlock story-heavy locations, so think dungeons, and you can do this in a number of ways. So think on the completion of quests, side quests, or maybe meeting demands of characters. This is your reward. I think the obvious big difference here to most in the genre, it's really the lack of complex inventory management. In this world everything is instant and you'll carry next to nothing, rather health pickups for example, they kick in immediately. There is stores around this world as well, and the same thing here, they see an instant application and it's refreshing, meaning you can focus on what to do next rather than any sort of, let's say, balancing. The runtime then matches this as well, a relatively swift 20 hours. My favourite part of this game though, transforming between characters. I found my favourite early, that is the rat, but expect things like mermaids, knights, eggs, horses, and just the list goes on. It's for sure embracing the weird, and that works, but it's not weird for the sake of being weird. They will be like absolutely necessary to progress because often locations, they are built around their individual skill sets. It definitely though feels more action heavy than most in the genre. We're not forgetting what genre fans love, but I really like the fact it jumps between main story quests, side quests and character specific challenges. So think, let's say 100 kills as a rat, or maybe chain attacks together as a ranger. It means you're always focusing on not only balancing out your main character Nobody, but then also how can I level up each of these individual transformations. Progression here then, you need to think of it in a number of ways. Personal challenges level up that character like I said, or class as I like to look at them. Dungeons reward main story progression, and then nearly every action leads into leveling up Nobody directly. This then boosts the abilities you have as well, stats like power, defense and mana. Then even some actions unlock locations on the world map as well. I'd look at these as almost environmental puzzles. Combat then is, as I said, simple enough as well. It starts limited, maybe 1 or 2 attacks each before evolving. It will open up all face buttons, which you can switch out. That's also active and passive skills as well. These attacks, so they also rebuild your mana, allowing for what I would call heavy attacks. Combat as well, it initially falls into 4 buckets: sharp, blunt, dark or light, but before you know it, you'll actually have an option to combine these characters together. This is going to be important as well because the game quickly introduces the idea of shields on enemies. You need a specific attack type to break this shield, so think if it has a dark symbol above its head, use a character like the rat and their poison attack. This combat's simple but effective, but it does still have a few issues. First, things can get a little manic on the screen and it devolves into more than anything kind of monitoring your health bar in the top left of the screen rather than focusing on what is occurring. Before we get into the second issue with combat then, I want to reinforce just how creative these characters are as well. You know, you've got melee attacking characters like the rat or the knight. How about an egg that rolls at their enemies? A horse that back kicks, a slug, and the list goes on, each unique, each important, because yes, this game's going to demand you use them, even if not in combat, it's going to ask you to use them for some sort of minor environmental puzzle. Like I said, they've embraced the weird, but it feels absolutely necessary. The only other area of combat I do dislike then, like any character that's actually ranged or requires specific positioning. So the ranger, for example, where you need to direct arrows, or the horse that kicks backwards, you'll always need to be facing away from your enemy. That's because it's not twin stick controls here, and that actually wouldn't be possible because the game uses all of the 4 face buttons. Instead, you lock your direction by holding the right trigger, and that's just, if anything, kind of awkward. I ended up avoiding these characters for the most part because the controls, they just kind of trip me up. Outside of that though, look, explore this world, use an overworld map that could have done with, honestly, a key just to kind of explain all the symbols on screen, because the game doesn't always accompany them with a text overlay description. And then you'll also unlock teleporters for a welcome quick travel system. That's before you even begin to play with things like leveling up abilities, working with active and passive skills, or working out even the best combo of attacks for you and the different kind of, let's say, classes. And that's the perfect area here actually to end gameplay. Do not come here though, as I said, for inventory management. Come here to experiment with instead. How can I do the maximum possible damage, and how can a character work to a scenario? Also, how can I level them up the quickest? That missing inventory then, it does mean the game can get a little repetitive at points because it's just so quick moving, you know, one bit of action to the next. But overall it unlocks things at what I would call a decent pace, that when my attention did start to drift, it pulled me right back in. So graphically, I really liked it. The game has an animated style that is refreshing though. We've been through a heavy pixelated look recently to games, and this is just extremely clean, extremely modern. If you know the studio, you know Guacamelee, and this will feel right at home. It's animated to the highest of levels, the colour in the world is about as vivid as it gets, and it leads to a ton of variety and creativity in both its design for the characters, the enemies, and the world design. This then even goes for things like the main menu and a quick access wheel for character selection in game. They are a welcome addition. As I mentioned in the video earlier as well, the sheer number of enemies on screen at one time can get a little bit overwhelming, but otherwise it is good stuff. Also, sure, it's not pushing the Series X, but you cannot deny this, it's super crisp, and that's, I think, all they really wanted going in, so respect for delivering on the vision, and 4K, it definitely pays off. Audio, finally, it's good stuff. While there's no voice acting, which I think would have went a long way here, the music is great. I describe it as whimsical, which suits the imagery, and it knows when to dial up the tension as well, and each attack does enough to give it some weight. The dialogue also, I get there's a huge amount of rating in here, but I'd love to see them maybe consider that with any sort of potential sequel. So overall, Nobody Saves the World. I was extremely excited for this one, and I am not disappointed. This studio has delivered now enough solid releases that I'll always be excited for what's next from them, and this is them doing what they do best, putting a unique visual style on a loved genre and changing up just enough about the gameplay that it feels unique in what is, let's face it, an extremely busy genre. Nobody, though, he has a great sense of humour. There's no doubt variety in its character and its action-packed stuff. It has a decent amount of challenge, which I did not expect going in. Now, does it have shortcomings? Sure, the ranged weapons, they never feel as precise as other options, and there's a few areas like the map index of symbols that could be tweaked, but I think most who jump in, they will be impressed with what they find. A great 8 out of 10 from me. The studio impresses yet again, and they are quickly becoming one of the most exciting indie studios out there. Now, will you be adding this one to the library, or are you holding onto that cash? With that then, hit subscribe, join us here on Xbox Corner for reviews, deals, graphical comparisons, and Game Pass breakdowns, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.